What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Ruben and Jessie podcast. As always, I am Jesse,
And I'm Ruben.
and welcome back to the show. And if this is your first time, this ain't gonna be your last time. What is going on, my brother? How are you living today?
Had a good day, man. It was a little bit windy outside, but
Mhm.
I just was in just getting work done um, and just chilling, man. How about you?
Oh man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great, actually. I had a wonderful workout this morning, banged through some work.
Mm.
Um, I'm looking forward to this good night rest. So yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to talk, man. We got exciting things to cover on this episode
Oh,
because
yeah.
you, my brother, had gone off the deep end. Oh, wait, pause that. Sorry, sorry about that, folks. A little technical difficulties. Anyway, so anyway, Ruben, my man, you had went off the deep end and decided to see what the fuck you were made of, man. And I am just so stoked to hear about your journey. For those of you who don't know, Ruben decided to take on David Goggin's challenge, which
Hmm.
is, if I remember correctly, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Yep.
Yep. This was very spring of the moment. I had no
Yes.
idea. I saw on IG one day that Ruben was like, "I'm doing this shit next weekend. Was good," and I was like, "All right, well, you go do that. I'm gonna just pretend I didn't see this and move on with my life." Um, and we definitely talked about this previously, before you were gonna go do this, but you did it, man. You did it, and it was so exciting to watch you share on IG and talk, talk with you, which I definitely want to touch base on that as well because it was just so interesting to see you in the thick of it. And but yeah, man, start wherever you want to start with this. Tell us why you decided to jump in on this. What pushed you, and let's hear about this journey, man. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny how it came up because I didn't know anything about this. I didn't even know that he had done it before. Um, and then I was like watching his story because David Goggins always shows up first when he shares on my story grid. And I was watching. I was like, oh, he does this challenge. Okay, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So I've typed it in on YouTube. People have done it, and they shared videos of them doing it. So I watched like two or three videos of these guys who did it. One guy did it with his partner, and I was like, oh, it doesn't seem that impossible. It seems doable now that I've watched people do it. And I remember I was like, when is it? And I'm thinking, oh, it's the end of March. Bro, it was the next week. I was like, fuck. So I was like, should I do it like the next because it was my busiest week last week. It was on Friday, March 5th to Sunday, March 7th. And I was like, fuck, March 8th starts my busiest week of the season at my day job. And I was like, in my head, the part of that part of you, your higher self or whatever, that little voice, it's like, hey, that doesn't matter. Like you have a busy week, but you
Yeah,
need you need to you need to do this. And I was like, why? And I was like, well, and I asked myself these and I journaled about it. And it was just like, well, I felt like I needed to do something because the Spartan race was in February. And I felt that miss threw me off a little bit, especially when they moved it all the way to September. And I was trying to find something else. I've been running the 15 to 20 miles a week just to keep my game up so that when the Spartan race comes, I'm well prepared for it. So I saw this and I was just like, it's a challenge. You don't necessarily have to run. You can work out, you can swim, you can bike. I was just like, nah, I want to do what Goggins is doing. And Goggins was running. So I was like, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna do it. I've never done a challenge. And that was the biggest pull for me. Like I've never done anything. I've never done a half marathon, a marathon, a 5K, or any of that. I've never signed up for anything. I've always been afraid to do stuff like that because I've seen people get hurt. I've seen people like go to the hospital because of these things. And I'm just like, why would I let that stop me? Like I take good care of my body. We're holistic health coaches. Like I think I can figure it out like nutritionally. Just I have this self-awareness with my body. I think I could do it. without harming myself in the short term or the long term. So that was what, like, I basically gave myself permission to do it. And as soon as I put it on social media, there was no turning back, because I feel like once you put it up, you have to keep your word, the four agreements, like be impeccable with your
Yeah,
word. We're guys
absolutely.
that are impeccable with our word. So that was my reason for really like starting it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, what did you do in preparation? I mean, I know we have, and you have continued to train for the Spartan coming up later this year. But outside of that, what were you starting to do to prepare for these 2 days?
Yeah. So, and folks, I mean, if you're not on my YouTube, you can subscribe, because I created a prep video
Mm,
specifically about this. But I didn't want to run any, like, a few days before. So obviously I stood away from running. I made sure to focus on, like, making sure my joints were lubricated well, so having a lot of healthy fats in my diet, making sure that I didn't have any inflammatory foods, so stood away from any outdoor food. I'm sticking to the highest quality meats, and making sure I was doing more of a high fat, medium carbs, because I knew I was going to need that a lot as I was running. So a lot of fruit, rice, potatoes, and just eating the right foods in preparation for that. And also making sure that I was doing, like, some heavy lifting to make sure that, like my just bones were ready for what I was about to take on, because I was definitely about to beat up my body, and as well as making sure I just got adequate sleep, because I knew those 2 days I wasn't getting sleep. So I was like, I need to make sure I'm getting my 8 to 9 hours per night right before that. So it's like you go back to basics, right? Like making sure that I'm getting enough sun, making sure that I'm sleeping well, making sure I'm eating right, like back to basics, and just making sure that mentally I was journaling every night, and just mentally preparing myself to know, like, what are you gonna do when that hard time comes? Because it is gonna come. What are you gonna do? Who are you gonna lean on? All these things. And obviously Karina, my partner, making sure that she was aware, like, hey, you got to deal with the stinky dude, because I'm not changing and taking a shower every time I run, because that's just way too much. And you're gonna have to deal with a dude. You're gonna have to help me prep my food, prep my nutrition. You're gonna have to help me with the recovery and using the gun on my legs, every time I come back from a run, to make sure I'm well prepared, as prepared as I can be for the next one. So it was like making sure I had that support, and I'm lucky, because some people do this by themselves. I'm lucky to have had that, as well as obviously having, friends like you just calling me, shooting me a text message, or sending me anything. So I spread the word to family and friends, and I had that emotional support as well. So
yeah, and just to touch on that, I'd be, because we talk so much about community,
yep.
and the importance of it, and we're kind of jumping forward a little bit, but we'll go back just because we're talking about this now. Is how much, and be honest, if it wasn't super impactful, then it wasn't. But how impactful would you say the community aspect of it was? The fact that you did have, obviously Karina is such a huge role in that, because she was right there physically supporting you. She was legit, literally your support system there. But just the fact that you were able to hear from friends and family and people cheering you on, what did that mean to you?
Probably so much, man. And I think that's why when if you watch my second video in the series, at the end, I like broke down crying and on Karina, because not only was it like, I did this, but also like there were people watching. Like, I met a guy through Dominic's group, who, FYI to everyone, Dominic has been on our podcast. He has a men's group called the Great Man Within. I met a guy through there who also did it alongside. So we exchanged phone numbers, and we were literally texting each other after every run, like, how are you feeling? Are you good? We were doing like little voice notes together. His name is Joshua. Shout out Joshua. I know I shared our podcast with him, so he's probably listening. But just those little things, like that person doing it alongside with me. I also had one of my students from my day job doing it alongside me too. So we were texting back and forth, and just like how he's doing, and checking in with him, and he's checking in with me. And just seeing like how it's different for everyone, right? And just you called me, I think the first morning after I had done already like 4 legs of it. And just like those little things are just like extra fuel in the tank to me. Like,
Mm.
throughout the runs, I'm definitely depleting that fuel. And I'm not talking about fuel physically, I'm talking about mentally and emotionally as well. But the fact that I had you, Joshua, my partner, and just random people on Instagram, my family on Facebook, just all like shouting out these things was giving me that little emotional fuel, so I don't go to E and possibly give up. So community is everything. I mean, me, I'm a relationship based person, so it was a huge impact for me, and I'm hoping that next time I do it again, that community is even stronger, because I can only imagine what that can create. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's get back into it. So tell me, because I'm assuming when I don't want to know when it got hard, because I want to
Mm,
talk about when it got hard, but
mm,
I want to talk about before it got hard. Because I feel like, and I've heard this in Goggin's book, where he talks about how when they were going through Hell Week, I have to read. I want to read that book again, man. I read that book like
I
4 times.
listened to certain chapters after I finish Taking Souls, the 40% rule,
Mhm.
and I forget the other one, but yo,
It's
yeah.
such a fucking good book, dude.
So
I gotta read that shit again. Um, but I remember this one part that he talks about where uh, basically during Hell Week, they have you like just grinding, right? Grinding. And I think on day one or day two or whatever day it is, there's this point where it's at the end of the day and they just leave you. They just leave you on the sand. And you're not hustling, you're not doing anything. They just have you sit there on the sand. And he says that is typically when most people quit. And the reason is because that's where you're silent and all you have is your mind. And your mind begins to start realizing how much more of this you have left. And it's and it starts playing with you. Like I remember when we jumped on a call, and you were like, yeah, man, I've done like 4 already, blah 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 blah. And I was like, cool, like how many you got left? And you're like, 12. I was like, fuck. I was like, Jesus Christ, I do this 12 more times. I was like, damn. And you were just laughing, but I was like, Jesus Christ, that's so much. Um, um, so yeah, tell me, like, before shit got like hard where there was no turning back hard. Tell me, was there a point where you were like, oh, I just did that, but wait, I have to do this how many more
yeah,
times? When did that part hit you?
all right. So when the 4 a.m. run was the first one that I actually, my body started feeling a little bit of fatigue. Like it wasn't like a lot, but it's 4 a.m. I have been up, right? Even though, I prepared, the sleep. I took a nap after work. So like around 4 p.m., I took like a nice little 20-30 minute nap. For some reason, I couldn't sleep longer. And I just went for it. So 4 a.m., started feeling a little bit of fatigue. I'm like, all right, this is going to be my first 90-minute nap, because that was my plan. It was to take 90-minute naps. And I got that idea from Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Sure, yeah, of course.
He talked about like, if you do 90-minute naps, that gives you a full cycle of sleep, and you should be fine moving forward if that's the least amount of sleep you can do. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do at least 2 90-minute naps per night. So that was my first 90-minute nap. That was a mistake. So 4 a.m., I feel the fatigue. I come back. I was a little cold. So I take a shower, hop right into bed. I passed out immediately. I missed my alarm. I sleep through my alarm clock at 6:50. I end up waking up at 7:20 a.m. My next run is at 8 a.m. So I literally only have 40 minutes, which is not enough time. You need the good hour before you prepare for the run to do a few things. One, I wanted to drink my pre-workout, which I used Organifi red juice as my pre-workout to prepare me for my run. Two, my stretching routine, my mobility routine, making sure that my joints are lubricated, and my muscles are ready to go. They're warmed up and primed. I only have 40 minutes to do all that. So I skipped the pre-workout drink. Instead, I just had a little bit of salt in my water, chugged that down. I did my stretching routine, warmed up, and went for a run. That was at the end of that run. I was in so much pain and so tired and so hungry because I didn't have time to eat. Um, that I was just like, I come back and I had that board. I think I showed you that board with all the runs, so I can just cross them out as I was going. So I cross it out, and I'm like in so much pain. Karina was making me breakfast, and I look at it. I'm like, fuck, I got six more legs. I have 24 more miles, and I'm just like, oh, and like I'm feeling my body like starting to really like be like, hey, what are we doing? Like, what is going on here? My
Mm-hmm.
legs hurt. They're starting to get that jelly feeling where if I sit down on the floor and try to get up, like it takes me a little bit, you know, I can't just get up like that. I have to use my hand and like get up. I was at that point, and I was like, all right, now I really have to make sure that I get the proper nutrition in my body, and I rest and I use this gun. And I think Karina came into the room after I ate, and she was using the gun on me for like a good 40 minutes because I was like, that 12 p.m. needs to.
Yo, she's a trooper, bro.
She is, man. She was just sitting there, just like zzz, like on my legs, like flipping me over. Like in the second video, I show a little clip of her like doing that on my butt, for instance, because I was like the most sore. Like my butt and my hammies, my quads, and my calves were killing me.
Yeah.
But that's when I realized, like, oh shit, like this is gonna be tough. Like I got 6 more legs, I got 24 more miles. Like, and I've only done 24 and I'm feeling like this. Imagine this 2 times more. And I'm like
Mhm.
imagining that pain, and I had to like completely remove it from my brain because I was like, I can't think of that right now. I just need to,
So how
what's
did
the
you do
next?
that?
I just had to stay present and say, what's the next objective? And I
Mhm.
took this idea from a Ironman fitness person I've been following, Nick Bear. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
him.
of course, of
And
course.
he
They
has
just
this,
did that.
yeah, he has this philosophy called "Go one more." For me, in my head, I was like, "Go four more," but you know, like don't even think about the end game. Just the next four, the next four, the next four, and really, like, I had to play that mind game because if I didn't, bro, and I was thinking too far ahead of like what I was gonna feel like in the last 4 miles, I was like, I'm gonna fail. So
Yeah,
I just stuck to what's next. What can I do right now to recover as fast as possible?
yeah,
And just focus on that. Focus on the next 4 hours. That's it. That's all I
yeah.
needed to focus on, and it worked. It
That's
worked.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so so when did it start? Like when did you have to start going into the cookie jar?
Ooh.
Meaning like when did you have to start like when like all right, so you were saying you had 6 more laps left when you started when the mental fight began.
Yep.
Uh was there any point at all where you were like, should I stop? Did that
At
ever
that
come
point,
up?
there was no stopping, bro.
There was no
Yeah,
stop.
we've already built that like iron mind that David Goggins talk about. I think you and I have already built something like that. That I was just like, no, this doesn't end unless I'm like ground like on the floor with pain and need to go to the hospital. And
Mm,
people, I don't recommend this. Like I'm just crazy. Like I'm like I don't recommend being to that point because I think most people where I was at, and we'll talk about like where I was at towards the end, would have been like, I'm stopping. Like I'm gonna hurt myself if I keep going. You know, I'd move
mm.
beyond that. Like
So when was that? When was that part where you were like, I'm like, no matter how much XYZ things I feel right now, I'm not stopping? When did
this
that officially click?
the second 4 a.m. one.
The
So
second, right?
the second 4 a.m., bro, was literally the hardest. And I say the dark night of the soul type of run.
Tell me
It was,
why.
that's when not only the, like, think about it, I hadn't slept, right? By then, I had slept in total 3 hours. So I'm already awake for over 36 hours. I had already run 36 miles, right? 36 miles, 3 hours of sleep. At night, I try not to eat because I didn't want to I didn't want to like get too tired because you know when you eat, your body goes into rest and digest mode, which is something else I got from Andrew Huberman. He was like, you know, stay away from eating if you can. So I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on electrolytes, drinking, hydrating, and making sure my muscles are massaged. But that 4 a.m. run, it was drizzling. It was the coldest night of the week. For some reason, we got a cold front. So it was like in the early, like the 30s. And I'm like, you know, I put my gear on, you know, I doubled down on up here. I doubled down. I put like heat tech underneath my shorts. And I was like, all right, like, I'm like limping, you know, that limp that you get, you know, I'm like limping outside. I'm by myself. Everyone's sleeping. No one's awake. You know, it's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Everyone's sleeping, and it's just me. Um, and I was like one foot in front of the other because I remember the hardest part at like starting that night, like that 12 a.m. run, was those first few steps to get into running hurt so much. But it was
Mm,
just like, I need to keep going. And then eventually your body gives in to that fact that you're like, yeah, we're doing this. Not you need to stop. And your body gets into, I guess it warms up and things start moving around. The, you know, your joints get lubricated and all these things happen. So I can keep going. And the idea was like, I cannot stop because starting over again, you know, when you stop
mm.
and you might walk a little bit and then you
Oh,
go
it's the
again,
worst.
it's so painful. So that 4 a.m. run, I probably did, I think the worst time I did throughout the whole thing. It was like almost 13 minutes pace. I was
Mm.
like fast walking, but not really. I was running. It was like I was fast walking because that's how much my pace when I would go out for my walks is like 13, 14 minutes. I was like, shit, like I feel like I'm running, but I'm not going anywhere. And you know, like the mental, it's freezing
Uh,
outside. I have no one to come back to because you know, everyone's sleeping, Karina's sleeping, my cat's sleeping, like everyone's sleeping. And I just remember like I got 2.5 miles and I thought I was done because I don't look at it like right away. I know like it vibrates in my I use the Apple Watch to track. It vibrated, but I don't look at it because I don't want to know. Like I can't know yet. I wait till that second or third vibration to be like, where am I at right now? And I
mhm.
looked and it was 2.5 and I was like, fuck, I got a mile and a half to go.
Damn.
Panting. My face is full of sweat. The wind is hitting me. It's freezing. I'm just like everything in my head is like it's cold. Stop it right now. Go back home. Walk the
Mm.
rest. Where are you going? Like, and in my head, I'm like, I'm just like, you need to, one step. Just keep going.
Yeah, to put this into perspective for people, like you mentioned, you've never done any race,
Nope.
and if you add up all those miles, how many miles did you actually run in those 2 days?
It's 48. That's a marathon and three quarters.
Yeah, you almost ran 2 marathons in 2 days. And you've never even run a marathon or a half marathon before.
Nope.
Um, and so for anyone who heard that, like, yeah, this is some next level shit. 4 miles doesn't sound like a lot, but if you multiply that by as many as you did, that's a lot. It's a
Yeah, and
lot.
and a lot of people, I mean, what I saw on the videos I watched is like, what's the most challenging part that most people go through? It's not the fact that you're running 4 miles every 4 hours. It's everything else.
Mm.
It's the fatigue, the lack of sleep. Like that's the shit that gets to you, which I think why David Goggins did that is just like this is your mini hell week. It's a very small kind of hell week because you're
Mhm.
only doing 2 days and you're only really running. You still have the opportunity to go get food and take a nap and whatever those case may be. But you have to be so strategic and so on top of things because I was one of the biggest fears was that I was gonna fall asleep and sleep past the time I was supposed to start and then have to catch up, which has happened to people before that they
And
would
do like bang out 8 miles.
bang out 8 miles exactly straight in
Woo!
in that pain. 4 miles was hard. Like imagine eight. I was just like, no. Um, and I think after that 4 a.m., like that dark night of the soul, I like get in. And if you see my
So
video,
wait, hold on. I still want to stay there a little bit
okay,
longer.
okay.
Like this is a unique place to be in, like you have to unless life has put you there, you intentionally put yourself into this place like you had. So where did you start going in your mind? What did you start saying to yourself? What did you start breaking apart in that, when hearing all the bitching and all the complaining in your mind? What did you start saying to Ruben to shift your reality, shift your perspective?
For that part was kind of like it's like going to little Ruben, because little, if I take, myself and just look at like where I'm at now to where I was, and think of that little child that exists within all of us, is that little child was complaining, was a complainer, like he was fearful of everything, like he always questioned things because he was so scared of things, like all these like parts of myself that still exists within me, but I've worked through, started to like creep in. But it was not like I was like, no, you can't be here. It was more like, come and give me a hug, because this is what I've seen. And like, I don't know about you, but when you get into places like this, these visuals come into your mind. Like, mind you, I'm lacking sleep, so I'm, in a sense, there was some parts that I would see shit at the side of my eyes and there's nothing there because I'm like lacking sleep. But like when you're in that space, your visuals get really strong because your body's trying to go to sleep, like you're kind of in the middle of dreamland. And I saw things like, we watched the documentary Iron Cowboy, the guy who did 50 Ironmans in like 50 days, right? I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Oh, such a great doc.
I highly recommend those folks.
And in 50 states.
And in 50 states.
Yeah.
So I thought about that. Like that came to mind, those visuals. I was just like, no, this dude did that. But this is nothing compared to that, And then I think about like documentaries like Rising Phoenix, like Paralympic people, and like the shit they have to do to get into the Paralympics, and all the things they can do and how inspiring that was. And I was just like, no, you have a perfectly able body. You can do this. And it was just like, there's no complaining. You have all this support behind you. You have a strong body. This pain is temporary. It's going to be gone in 2 days after you're done with this. And that's what I just had to like tell myself every step. Like, you got this. You're okay. Just keep going. Push forward. Go one more. Let's keep going. Keep a cadence. Be cool. Like, don't rush it. Because there was times where I was just like, I'm going to just fucking go. And that would just cause more harm than good. So it was just like, don't worry about keeping it steady, because I had a goal to keep it every 4 miles under 10 minutes. And that I wasn't able to. So I had to like go to plan B and be like, keep it under 15. And just, step forward. Think about the people you're doing this for. I had a donation set up for young men in the hood of Detroit to get support. And while it was only in Detroit, I was very like, think about those kids and the young men, and think about your future son, right? Like, I plan to have a son, daughter too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I plan on it.
I plan on having a son, daughter too. But just to know, like, oh, my dad did some crazy shit like that. Like, I can't complain. I can't do. I can't just sit around doing nothing. I know I want to be just as amazing. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I'm big shit, but I plan to be big shit, right? Like, I'm planning to do that. I plan to be good. And all these thoughts are just like replaying themselves over and over again throughout this whole experience, because I knew I was going to hit the wall, as marathon people call it. Like, and now 4 a.m. run was me hitting the wall and having to push beyond that. And that 8 a.m. run was not much better. That 8 a.m. run sucked ass as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a perfect place to say what I wanted to say earlier, which is like, I remember when we did jump on the line, dude, you were just like, even though I could tell it was suck, you were just so alive. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's what people who've never done anything along these lines get to find out, is that like, in the midst of the suck, there's great joy and great like wonder, because you're like, oh, I'm exploring this new side of myself. I'm exploring these different versions of myself. And I could see that when I was talking to you. You were just like, yeah, man, this is the worst shit ever. But had a smile from cheek to cheek, and it was so inspiring to see.
Yeah, man. And I remember that call really was, I think it was after my 8 a.m., if I'm not mistaken. And that 12 p.m., bro, that call helped because that 12 p.m. was one of my strongest runs. Just once again, that fuel in the fuel tank, it really gave me that, like, oh, my my mile pace was about 9 minutes, 17 seconds. That was the best in comparison to my first two runs. So I was like, oh, there's something there that really supports me, as well as obviously the nutrition and all this stuff, other things that I'm doing. But it's just powerful what a simple call can do. And I definitely felt ecstatic. Like I remember that 4 a.m. dark night, I had to laugh to myself because I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot for doing this. Think about, your knees are killing you right now. And let's hope you don't do any long-term damage to your knees.
Yeah.
Your hips are killing you right now. You better make sure your form is right. Like all these things that are coming up for me. I'm just like, I just had to laugh because you're just like, I'm doing this, for me and for whatever comes up after this, the future for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not like David Goggins did it to be like, hey, people are gonna win stuff. I don't give a shit about that. Like, he did have prizes and stuff. I didn't even sign up for that because I was like, I don't care. I'm doing this. I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
See how far I
Yeah.
can take myself.
Yeah. And there's levels to this shit, because David Goggins, I saw, was doing 40-minute jumping jacks
You
after
saw
each.
that?
Yeah. He was doing 40-minute jumping jacks with his doc, like his PT. After every run, they would do 40 minutes of jumping jacks. It's like, yeah, man, there's levels to this shit, bro. But it's exciting, and I okay, so then take us to the last run, last 4 miles. Tell me what that was like.
Yes. Wonderfully, I had Karina join me on that run for
Mm,
2 miles because she's not a she's not a runner, but she invested 2 miles with me, and I definitely felt that you can call it like a tailwind. Like I felt really strong. Obviously, I was excited to finally be done, but to have her by my side, just keeping. My pace was not fast. I kept it relatively like slow for my muscles, but also so I can be alongside her. And then 2 miles in, she was like, I'm done." I was just like, "Cool, like I'll meet you at home. Have the camera ready." Because she recorded me as I was running to her for those that last mile, and it was a solo last two, and I'm just like, "You did it, man!" Like even though I
uh,
hadn't done it yet, but like the last 2 miles, you're like, I'm feeling strong. The sun is hitting me because it was 4 p.m. The sun was hitting me. I was running on the track that's near our house, and I was just doing it. Made those loops. That final 0.5 comes. I start running back home because it's 0.5 miles from the track. And Karina was waiting for me with the camera, and just like, I just run into her arms. You know what I mean? And that was like, oh, like this release comes because you're just like, I'm done. You're holding things in because you're just like, I can't think of anything else. Like it's just the next 4 miles. But finally, like I fucking did it. Like I I didn't know what I had in me, right? You don't know what you
mm,
have in you until you get to that point. It's like I said in my last video that's coming out this week on my reflection was we hit we run to the cliff, which is like the corner of our comfort zone. And we get there, we peek down and we're like, it's foggy and we're not sure what's down there. But if you jump, there's another ledge. And then that
mm,
other ledge will lead again to you'll go further into the next ledge and you look down and you jump. And I felt like over those 2 days, I pushed beyond that so many fucking times, more times than I've ever done in my life. And I've been to fucking China. Like people are like, how the hell you lived in a place you couldn't even speak the language? And I was like, I know, I don't know. Like I did it though. But this was one of those times like physically I was able to push myself to my limit. And I don't think that was my limit, bro. I was sitting there after that run with Karina. We were eating dinner, and I was like, I can go out again and run if I wanted to, like, because I
Mm.
felt so elated, so powerful, so I felt I can say it best, like my warrior was in his fullness. Like my warrior was in his fullness at that moment. I was just like, this is what warriors do. You know what I mean? Like this is what they do. Like, and I was just like, cool. Like now I have this experience that in my cookie jar where I can
And you
always
could,
pull up and be like, look what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
and who knows what this might look like. I definitely want to do it again, and I'm hoping to do it in somewhere different. Not in this specific area, maybe like in a city, just somewhere else. I would love to do this in like a desert. That'd be dope.
That's next level shit.
Next level shit. But like now I'm curious. Like I've moved beyond what I thought was possible for myself. What else is out there? So obviously, we're doing Spartan. And I remember talking to one of my coworkers who's done tons of half marathons. He's actually done Spartan himself. And when I told him that I did this, he was like, are you crazy? Like, I wouldn't even do this. And he's a person who's ran, I think, double digit half marathons. He's done the Spartan race in the Philippines, where it's hot and humid. And he's like, so I'm like, oh, you're pretty badass, man. And he's like, no, man, like almost 2 marathons in 2 days. Like that Spartan half marathon is going to be cakewalk to you.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what's after that? Oh, the marathon. So maybe I have to prepare for that. And then after that, like, oh, maybe even an Ironman. I know it's something that you want to do.
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely.
okay, in the next few years, like Ironman, that's the big boy, you can say, unless we do like a Moab 240. For folks who don't know, a Moab 240 is a 240-mile race in the mountains of Colorado, right? I think it's
Yeah,
Colorado.
I could die never having done that race. Absolutely
Yeah,
happy.
I'm good. I'm good,
Only
man.
like only because I like aesthetics and I don't want to be frail as fuck because you're gonna have to be to run that kind of fucking race. Um,
Exactly. Like that's
yeah.
what I always say too. I don't want to be like I see most of these like triathlon runners, is it triathlon? Runners,
Ultra runners, yeah.
ultra runners, like they're all like this tiny. And I'm like, cool, your body is literally built for you to run like that. I don't want that kind of body.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
But
good.
there's so many challenges to take on and to
Right.
participate in.
Right.
And so, yeah, man, I just want to say I'm fucking proud of you, bro. It was very inspiring to watch you do that. And I'm happy. I'm proud to have you as my friend, as my brother, and to know that you are someone who can go out there and do dope shit like that. It's super cool. It's super cool to call you my friend. So, congratulations, man. You did some hard ass shit.
Makes both of us hard.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Put the You put the fire under my ass. I gotta start searching for my next experience, my next challenge on that front.
Word,
Um,
bruh.
word, word.
Word. But enough about me, man. It's time to turn the tables on you because you've been everywhere. I feel like every time we try to talk, Jesse's out doing something else. So
um, no, man. I don't know how much time we have left on this, and I wanted to really dedicate this episode to your experience because I think it was so powerful, and maybe, well, not maybe, definitely the next time we get on, I could share more about what I've been up to and what's going on in my life. All I'd say is that. Um, I'm living somewhere new. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should see that I'm living in a new apartment. Lots changed in my life in the recent few months, as I've mentioned on the show before. And as you'll hear in episodes to come, my language is changing. The way I talk about things is changing, and it has a lot to do with discoveries and things that I've been learning. I recently got certified by the Heart Math Institute, where I now am able to create, clinical protocols for reducing stress, anxiety, and supporting people in self-regulation using heart math techniques, which is coherence breathing, breathing, and, learning how to connect with your heart. And it's something that actually, the reason I decided to get certified in it was because during this last few months of, the best word I could use is uncertainty and chaos, was something that was instrumental in supporting me, in keeping my head above water and staying sober throughout that experience, and continuing to evolve and improve and find more success even amongst all of the, not only individual chaos but the collective consciousness chaos as well. And these are topics and things that I've always gravitated to in my life, but I was afraid to talk about them because I thought they were woo-woo, or I thought they were silly, even though I was into personal development. But now, seeing how much science there is to back these things up, it's just given me my Western mind the confidence to share and talk about them, and show how impactful they are. And so the next time we get on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what the fuck went down, because Ruben, what the fuck went down, and it was quite a lot. And I'll talk about
3 months of Jesse just like going through the ringer, bro.
Through the ringer. Like, hey man, talk about Dark Night of the Soul. It was definitely one of those. It was definitely one of those dark nights of the soul. And it's funny because Elliot Hulse talks about he does a lot of work with men, and is I would say very much a leader in men's work. And one of the things he talks about are these cycles of 12 in men's lives. And I'm assuming it's in women's lives as well. But he talks about how there are these cycles, just like there are 12 months in a year. There are every 12 years in a man's life is a radical time for shifts and change and evolution. And most of his audience are men who are, either 24 or 36 years old. And so I am 23. I'll be turning 24 in a couple of months, which is so weird for me to hear.
2 months away.
2 months away, which is so strange to me, because at times I still feel like a teenager. You know what I mean? Sometimes I still feel like I'm a teenager.
What are you saying? I still feel like a baby.
Yeah. No,
every time I learn some shit new, I'm like, I don't know anything.
I guess I would say I started quote unquote waking up when I was 16, 17.
Right.
And so that is in my head, sometimes I still feel like I'm there. And then obviously I recognize that I've evolved since then, but I don't realize oh wow, I'm getting older. I'm almost in my mid-20s. And that to me is just such a head trip, and there's nothing, I'm not saying anything about being old or anything like that.
Right.
If I was older, I don't see age in that way. It's more of just recognizing wow, I've been on this planet for almost 24 years. It's such a head trip to me, and so in some ways it's almost, of course, of course these things would happen at this point in my life, because cycles of 12. And I definitely think that experience was a fire that burned away a lot of things that weren't serving me, and sparked the fire for a lot of things that are serving me now. And it re-woke my ass up, because I was so caught up in what the fuck was going on in the world in 2020, that all these events just woke me up to what's important and what to spend my time and energy on and what not to give into. And so there were lots of nuggets that I picked up on the way, and still I'm still processing those months and what they meant, and why they've been, because Ruben, you've even said it yourself, the way I'm being is changing a lot, and it has to do with those months in my life, and it was so fast. and so much has shifted and continues to shift, and I'm already seeing the fruits of that. So, but that's a little sneak peek. This episode is really about Ruben and his fucking magnificent journey. So again, congratulations, bro. And next time we'll dive into a little bit more about me.
Yes. So y'all can expect that in about 2 weeks. So y'all have to wait a little bit of time.
That's right.
That's fine. That's fine. For now, you can listen to all our other episodes and leave us a review and follow us on Instagram. And I can just keep it going. But yeah, man, thank you for the questions you asked. I always appreciate them. I know, like, we didn't really, like, we usually talk ourselves, but we don't normally, like, we didn't have time to, like, talk about what happened throughout that, because there was, we both had crazy weeks last week. So I'm happy we took the time to come in today and just, like, dissect that and just talk about it. Because for me, revisiting that is just like, oh yeah, I did that. It isn't did sometimes, but it's there. It's the proof is in the pudding. I shared that. I shared it on IG. The story. You were virtually there. You were there, close to my heart. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Keep it moving, like a coach. Hey, come on, keep it going. You know what I mean? But yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Peace too, brother.
Always making this space for us, and I hope the audience enjoys these conversations.
Absolutely. Well, if you do, leave a review, give us 5 stars, because it helps the fucking show. So thanks so much.
And share it with other people, you know what I'm saying?
Man, send it to David Goggin.
Send it to David Goggin. Let's get him on the podcast.
You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what the fuck I'd ask that guy, because he shared so much. I'd ask him a lot of things. If he came on the show, I'd ask him so many things.
Well, if anyone got to connect, let us know.
Get Goggins on the show, brother.
Get Goggins on the show.
I'm saying we're gonna manifest it. We're gonna make it happen.
We're gonna make it happen, bro. We're gonna make it happen.
Oh. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Much love. Peace.